Hi everybody. This is my second video. I'm going to be doing a deep dive into Union Station in Kansas City, Missouri. A very similar style of building compared to the Nelson that I recently explored in my last video, in the same city as well. This limestone Beaux Arts architecture style building. It's beautiful. Once again, definitely a place you should check out if you ever visit Kansas City. It is amazing. Uh, yeah, I mean, here's a great old photo. I believe this is from the dedication of the Liberty Memorial sometime around the 1920s, right across the street off camera here, but all these people came to see it. So I'm going to start with just going into a dive about the history of Union Station and how that building just kind of got to be here. So it started out, it actually replaced, a previous building, this building, which we see that narrative a lot with a lot of these massive structures that really don't make sense. They're always, not always, but a lot of the times replacing previous structures. This was the old Union Depot in Kansas City. It resided in its West Bottoms district near the stockyards and the meat packaging area of early Kansas City. And it was Kansas City's first grand train station. It opened on April 7th of 1878. And I mean, it's a wonderful old world castle, almost, really. It has a lot of ornamentation up here, the gate-like fixtures that many people would assume to be antiquitech. We have power lines in 1878. They look well established. Lots of rubble, lots of dirt on the roads next to these impressively beautiful palaces. It's just so strange. The Hannibal Bridge had just been completed in 1869, which connected Kansas City to the eastern United States. And so they decided, okay, we're going to need a train station here, and they busted this out real quick. It was the largest train station west of New York City, and it is quoted as an impressive achievement for a city still carving out its identity. So we have a city that's still not even really established building something like this, and this is a great it's, I believe, that same photo just colorized after the fact, so we get kind of a look of what it would look like in color, which is cool to see. It was designed by prominent architect Asa Bebe Cross and William M. Taylor. It was more than a transportation hub, it was also a visual landmark. Its architecture combined elements of Renaissance and Gothic revival styles, complete with turrets, gables, and arches, and decorative ironwork. The building resembled a European castle more than a Midwestern depot, symbolizing Kansas City's cultural ambitions and rising prominence. And I believe that description to be right on. This is a European castle. If you were to show this to someone with no context and tell them that this was in like Belgium or Germany, they would probably believe you instantly. But no, this is in 1800s Kansas City. We have these fixtures up here that I would only assume had something on them at some point. Inside, passengers found marble floors, high vaulted ceilings, frescoed murals, and elegant waiting areas. It was a place of movement and luxury where cattle dealers, soldiers, politicians, and families from across the country crossed paths under a soaring roof. But its success was short-lived. As we can see here, it no longer stands today. Yeah, we have a wonderful freeway out here. You know, we needed that in this road, so we had to get rid of this building. They didn't just demolish it, however. It was not built in an ideal location, they say. Its site was in the flood-prone West Bottoms, and that's what takes this building out, they say, was the flood of 1903. Waters rose over 6 feet inside the building, which then prompted them to say, oh, we need a new train station on higher ground. And that's where they go and build the current day Union Station. But it's honestly a travesty that this building was just destroyed. It says that the Union Depot held a farewell celebration on Halloween night in 1914. So nearly 10 years after the flood. I mean, you'd think, and it says even that evening, the final trains departed the old station, and its windows and doors were nailed shut. So it was not destroyed in the flood, obviously. It still was operational for up to 10 years after. So why a building like this would be just torn down doesn't really make a lot of sense to me. Here's an old photo, 1888. See it off in the distance there. Trains coming in. But this is some footage from the flood, allegedly. It's a strange photo, in my opinion. Interior of the Union Depot. I'd assume this is during the flood. This doesn't look like the floor to me, but this is a definite picture of the flood. This is the Union Depot over here. Yeah, this flood was pretty devastating. One of multiple that Kansas City experienced in its early days. This photo is very interesting because you may notice that it is missing the large tower that was here, a lot of the detailed ornamentation. I believe that maybe they intended to keep this building. It was never intended to be destroyed. They intended to keep it, and that maybe this is the type of stuff they would come in and do to it to basically make it obsolete and unable to use its antiquitech. Here's some great side-by-sides. So I mean, this tower completely taken out for that. This little upward section taken out. And I mean, this isn't artist rendition. Why would someone see this beautiful building, draw it to a T, but then change the roof? This isn't artist rendition. This is someone coming in with an agenda, in my eyes, and drawing the building how they wanted us to see it. I mean, even going back, it actually looks exactly like that here. So possibly they already disabled this building before the flood. But these old photos we still have show its grandeur and its beauty. But I just think that was very interesting to see. I'd assume this was from an old postcard or something like that. This is a postcard as well. But just odd. Why someone would take the time to draw this building so strikingly differently is beyond me. So going back to the actual Union Station itself, the one that I'm focusing on for this video, this is it, an old postcard version. I love these old postcard photos. The coloration is always very cool to look at. But the story for how this place gets built are 12 railroads come together to form the Kansas City Terminal Railroad, or KCTR. Chicago architect Jarvis Hunt was selected to design the station, and in August of 1910, construction begins. Union Station was designed in the Beaux Arts architecture style. This is popular in the United States and France, they say, in the late 1800s and early 1900s. When I see Beaux Arts, that's a big red flag for me. It doesn't really make a lot of sense. The Nelson is also, they say, modeled in Beaux Arts style. I think it's interesting how the Nelson and the Union Station are both in Kansas City. I think they're both related to past civilizations, so if that's what we now call Beaux Arts, I think that makes a lot of sense. And notice also that a lot of these cars and people are painted in. This is actually probably one of those trick photographs where they take a photo of it and then paint over it. This is the interior, postcard of the interior. I'm thinking something similar here, where this was a photo and then these people were painted in. Obviously, these aren't real people. But in October 30th of 1914, Union Station opened to the public. Just after midnight on the morning of November 1st, the first train rolls out. The station costed nearly $6 million to make and was part of a $50 million investment by the KCTR, which also included track additions, switching towers, viaducts, and bridges. This building is also massive. I think it's bigger than most people realize. I think they said there were somewhere around 900 rooms in this building, which is insane. I don't think this was a train station originally. Whatever the past civilization was using this for, it was not a train station. It reminds me of a palace, you know. It's very, very strange. All these people, once again, painted in. Just odd, painted in people in the main hall. Like, this is a good example to me. Like, this room is ginormous just for benches. Like, they made this huge room in 1911 or 1912, whenever they were actually constructing this room. Who knows when they say it is, but this ginormous room is just a waiting area for benches. It doesn't match. It just does not match. These are the ceilings of Union Station. They're actually very well known. I believe it was the largest unsupported ceiling for a while in America. But here's some old photos as well. Now I'm going to get into a little bit of this story I learned when researching Union Station. It's called the Kansas City Massacre, or the Union Station Massacre. It was this huge deal at the time. Convicted mobster Frank Nash was under escort by a team of FBI agents and police officers, and they were shot at and killed outside of the station. 4 law enforcement officers were also killed, and they say that the marks outside of the building, you can actually see the marks of the bullets that hit Union Station when this happened. But recently, Kansas City, Missouri police have showed that the marks could not have come from bullets. But according to the Union Station website, the myth and mystery of the incident lives on. I think this was a false flag operation, possibly a very early false flag operation in United States history, because this event directly correlated to Congress strengthening the power of the FBI, specifically giving them the ability to have firearms and carry firearms. And it just seems so odd, like, especially considering that we can go back and this is what they say was the bullet hole, but law enforcement obviously today said that there's no way it could be. So what? I don't think it's so much a question of what caused this hole, but rather why was that associated with this event? And this is like proof of the event even. So if this is fake, then did this event even happen? You know? It's just strange. This is the architect, Jarvis Hunt. I actually like that we have some pictures taken. In my last video, white and white, the architects behind the Nelson Atkins Museum were not photographed at all, so I'm glad Jarvis Hunt got around to getting his picture taken, especially considering his repertoire of architectural marvels he has under his name, which we'll check out in a second. These are a few of his personal photos he took. The ceiling here is 95 feet high, and the 3 chandeliers weigh 3,500 pounds each, as well as a clock over here that's 6 feet in diameter. I mean, it's just mind-boggling stuff for the 1930s, or excuse me, 1910s, that just does not make sense for this to be here. We have these rooms that really aren't present in there today. I have explored this building a bit, never saw these. But let's look a little bit into what Mr. Hunt has made in his time. This is the Arbor Lodge in Nebraska in 1903. And as we continue through these buildings, I want you to take note of where and when they were built. It appears to me that he jumped all around the country just making these beautiful buildings and just couldn't be stopped, apparently. But this is the Arbor Lodge, 1903 in Nebraska. The Vermont building, this one was actually in the World's Columbian Exposition, or the Chicago World's Fair, 1893. There's another picture of that. Very interesting statue work all throughout the building here. We have the Chicago and Alton Depot in Marshall, Missouri, 1906. This picture says CIA station. CIA wasn't around until 1940s, but I thought that was interesting, worth mentioning. Obviously a door like underground here. It's very interesting. You can see it as early as this photo as well. The naval station Great Lakes, or in the Great Lakes, excuse me, I believe is in Illinois, yes. 39 original buildings, 1903 to 1927. Just massive, and I don't know like when he had the time to even do something like this. This is in Illinois. This would have been in the middle of the construction of Union Station. Union Station was built in 1914, or they say founded in 1914, so I'm just wondering how he had time to get all the way over here, work on this as well. There's some newer photos. I believe this was the building earlier here, but they've obviously taken a bit off, maybe not, but as you can see, lots of multi-storied brick buildings with domes on this campus. The Union Pacific headquarters in Omaha, Nebraska, 1910. This one actually does not stand today. They have replaced it with something much, much better. Our modern tools and technology built something that just looks so much grander. Can't pick up on my sarcasm. I think this looks like a block of glass when compared to this. I mean, I'm not sure what they would try and say, like, oh, this building was falling apart and we had to take it down and build a new one. I don't know, but very beautiful regardless. I imagine there was something up here at one point. We see a lot of these buildings throughout cities all across America, but in Nebraska kind of surprises me. The Kansas City Star building in 1910. If you watched my last video, this might look familiar. William Rockwell Nelson, the founder, or not founder, but philanthropist of the Nelson Atkins Museum, actually worked here. This was his newspaper. I found it interesting. We have these large, almost Eiffel Tower-like structures here. Wonder what they were for. Some sort of antiquitech. But 1910. We have the Joliet Union Station in 1911 to 1913 in Illinois. Very similar style almost to the regular Union Station. It almost looks like this goes down far below ground, even deeper, and expands. Like this is the top of a castle or palace or something. Here's some more modern photos of that. Or not modern, but actual photos. Those were postcards. Very ornate detailing all across the building. It's fantastic. Could almost, if you would have told me there was a dome on here at one point, I think I'd believe you. The 16th Street Station in Oakland, California, built in 1912. Very similar design, once again, to the Joliet and Kansas City Union Station, with this 3 arched windows here, and the roof is very similar to me as well. This one is actually not in use today. It's actually fallen apart. It's not being used. That's something I am very proud about Kansas City. They take care of their old world structures, but this one, it honestly breaks my heart to see that it's just not being upkept. It's almost like we don't know how to upkeep these buildings, but typically what happens here is these buildings go unused for so long and then they're demolished, which I think is part of someone's goal. This is the Hecht department store. Apologies if I said that wrong, in Washington, D.C., however. I have this old picture, I believe, around the 40s, 50s, with streetcars going through. Large clock up here. It looks like, once again, something could have been taken off the top. Just beautiful, ornate metalwork. You know, it's possibly a conductor or something. I don't know. It looks like antiquitech. All of it looks like antiquitech to me. This is the Commerce Trust Building, Kansas City, Missouri, 1914. I mean, just beautiful. In Kansas City, again, very similar to the Georgia Pacific Building that we saw earlier, but obviously different. You know, built in 1914, completed at the same time as the Kansas City Union Station, believe it or not. Here is Dallas's Union Station, Dallas, Texas, built in 1914 to 1916, and once again, this 3-panel window motif. Very elegant inside. Similar chandeliers, almost identical to that of Union Station in Kansas City, so I wonder if these types of buildings were one thing, you know? Whatever these were before, they were not train stations, but they had something to do with this technology scattered throughout. This is some modern photos, very similar to Union Station with this corner here. Kansas City Union Station, I mean, very similar. Looks like a beautiful balcony up here as well. Just gorgeous. We have Newark Museum in Newark, New Jersey, 1923 to 1926. An almost like mausoleum entrance here, a giant entrance. You can see this is our human doors, I like to call them. Basically half the size, less than half of the size of this entrance. 3 large windows once again. But this building's very beautiful. It's a museum. Looks like it definitely could go deeper. Maybe does, who knows. And obviously we're back at the Union Station in Kansas City, completed in 1914. We see a lot of the similar things that we saw with those other ones. 3 windows, pillars. It really makes me wonder what these buildings were previously for, before they were all taken as train stations. This is a nice panoramic shot. Here's where Union Station sits. This is like the rail yard. I'm gonna show some interior photos next. Nice old interior. This all still stands today, luckily. It's beautiful. I do believe this was built. There are actually construction photos of this being built. I believe they remade the floor. Here's another interior shot. We have this compass pattern that I actually saw on a couple of the other Union Stations that we explored earlier. Here's one of the rooms. This was a restaurant. This was, I believe, a women's area of some sort. Very nice. I mean, marble. This looks like it's symmetric. It's like the symmetry is what gets me with a lot of these buildings, especially this one. It's how symmetrically perfect everything is. Like there's not a lot of error. There's like no error. These buildings are perfect. These are the construction photos of this. As you can see here, I think they're putting the floor down. They're building this ticket booth because I don't think this was here originally. As far as the scaling goes, it's actually very interesting. I have some things to show on that later. There's a ghost in this picture too, I guess. But here is them apparently making the ceiling, I would assume. This is what this is. Or what they would say this is. We got these guys sitting up here. This is one of the large, like, superstructures. I don't know, there's not a ton of information on, like, how they built it, what was the process, because we see this giant superstructure thing. Sometimes it's sticking out the top, sometimes it's in here like this, so I don't know. I was just confused looking at it. We have these circles, interesting iconography all over. Now I'm going to get into some of the construction photos that we do have available. This is a nice panoramic from the dedication of the Liberty Memorial. Here's a construction photo. This is that large, I guess, superstructure. This is what they were holding the cranes with. I don't know, but it looks different to me, like this picture compared to this picture. I don't know. It does not look the same. But Union Station construction began in August of 1910. The men who built Union Station numbered in the hundreds at any given time, working together to build what would become one of the grandest architectural structures in the Midwest. This photo here. Here's one of the construction companies, GEO Fuller. Interesting train number here. This tree also looks very fake to me. We don't don't see trees at all in the construction process, and seeing one here is just very weird. This is a nice colored photo. Once like the tree is not there, really it might be off screen, but I doubt it. These colored photos, I think, do a great job of highlighting how strange vanilla skies look in like person. It doesn't look natural at all to me. The 4-year construction process was intensive and included blasting through rock formations to create a more suitable site for the building. The excavation of more than 670,000 cubic feet of dirt and rock, and the rerouting of OK Creek, which ran from downtown Kansas City directly through the middle of the site, where the north waiting room was to be located. I actually have photos of that as well, of them building the tunnel, the sewer system to reroute this creek. These photos, they just look so fake to me. Something about it. It looks like a drawing, like a painting. Once again, you see this vanilla skies. Even if this was a photo, it's just so unnatural. Like, why is the entire background foggy, but then the building is perfectly visible? It's very odd. Union Station opened to the public on October 30th of 1914. The finished construction project cost nearly $6 million and was part of a $50 million investment by the Kansas City Terminal Railroad. Here, this photo is actually great. This one. Once again, just completely unnatural to have the background be this bright. It's just so odd. I do think that possibly the building, or the roof was reconstructed and changed, but I'm not entirely sure. I almost imagine a dome being on this, and then a dome here and a dome here, but we have a lot of construction photos of the roof in particular. Like, they're building this slanted bit. They built this slanted bit here and here. They kind of match. But once again, just a strange construction photo. This one's from January 31st, 1913. It just looks very odd. Lots of dirt. Lots of excavation of dirt. You know anything about old photos of Kansas City, you'll find a couple photos of buildings completely submerged in dirt, which lends to the mud flood theory pretty heavily. This one, I believe, was also submerged. That's probably close to 20 feet of dirt high up in the air. Very strange. This is another angle of the apparent site where the Union Station was going to be put, but once again, how can we really tell? I don't know. This is a similar site. I believe this one's taken here, it looks like. Yeah. So a little closer. Just strange, in my opinion. I don't know if we can trust these little notes. This one I included to show the dirt roads and like what looks like a driveway to nothing here, which I thought was very odd. Just so much dirt. You have these beautiful buildings back here and dirt roads. It just doesn't make sense. Here's a great example of roads just filled with dirt. Here's some early construction photos, and I think I might just scroll through these and not talk, let you just watch and see what you think. This is a good example of one that I think kind of highlights the building of the roof above anything else. Here are some photos of the apparent construction crew who got to work on this thing. They cite this as day one on the job. All these guys very happy. This is the crew who helped dig the tunnel that we will see later. They just got down there and dug it with their hands. Look at all these gentlemen. This guy, luckily he was here to guide this little massive stone in place, and even more luckily that he was here to watch it, make sure everything went well. It's funny to me. This rock looks big enough that it would like break these cranes that we see in these construction photos. I thought these were very odd. I found a lot of construction photos on the Missouri Valley Special Connections site, which has a great archive of old photos from Missouri. But in 1999, they were doing reconstruction on the building. These photos are all in black and white, which I find very strange considering color photography was the norm by the 70s. This wall looking extremely old and very interesting with its brickwork. I've seen photos or old drawings where a statue was here as well that was removed. It looks like something should go here, not just whatever this is, I don't know. This picture, I think, was very interesting. An old postcard that someone drew. Obviously, this is all painted, but what I found very interesting was the ceiling had very vibrant reds and blues. And today, the ceiling is it looks like someone came in and scraped that paint off deliberately. In every spot. You can tell, especially when you compare it to this, it without a doubt used to look like that. This photo was from the construction, and actually when I zoomed in I could already tell that they were scraped. They already had come in and paint, which just doesn't make sense. This artist's rendition just seems so vibrant. Right here again. This is the main hall, and that is not here today. These vibrant red and blues. These are some of the underground mailroom tunnels, or the underground mailroom network. I don't know what they would call it, but it shows that there's quite a bit underground. These things were very odd. Found a lot of photos of these, and I'm not quite sure what they are. I can't tell if they go to the sewer system that we're about to see in a bit, or if they are pieces of railway, but I would love to know. If anyone knows in the comments, please lend us your wisdom. Here it makes me think that they are some sort of railway piece, if they are the same thing. It's just strange to me then why there are some here and then this is on the ground. We have what looks like train tracks buried in dirt. This building buried in dirt. Very strange. It looks very old as well. Hopefully you noticed in a lot of those old construction photos the bricks were very weathered, it appeared. And if they were just built, I don't really see why that would. This is the tunnel that they built. It is, I believe, 22 feet wide for water. Supposedly for water, but we see train, I'm not sure if they're train, but tracks in the tunnel as well as on top. So if this is only for water, I'm kind of wondering why. It's huge, especially for a creek, as it is described to be. To wrap up here, I just want to show something I thought was interesting. This old map, I believe it was from 1912, and it was a whole panoramic of the city, but I wanted to focus here on this very inconspicuous blot that has been taken out of the map. Almost looks like it was scraped away, and you'll never guess what was here. Union Station. This is the spot where it should sit. As you can see, there are this right here, this circle that you can kind of see the outline of, 1 mile from New Union Station in 1912, when this thing should not have been built. And this one 2 miles or 3 miles from New Union Station. They have these radiuses. So it just really doesn't make sense why a map from 1912 is marking down something that wasn't supposed to be built for another 2 years. And then we also just conveniently have where it should be missing. And obviously it looks like this stuff is here. Looks like it was scraped off to me. But I just want to reiterate how marvelous this building really is. This is a modern picture. And I mean, just ask yourself, why don't we build things like this today? If our technology is so much better and our society is so much more advanced, how come we are not building buildings like this today? It should be easy if we were able to do it in just 4 years in the 1910s. The answer is because we cannot. These buildings cannot be replicated by our technology that we have today. And they were not built in the 1910s in 4 years. These buildings have been here for a long time, and I am very excited to do deep dives into many other buildings around the country and the world. So thank you for watching. Hopefully this video got you to think a little bit. Love you all, and stay curious.